It used to be the case that the left was seen as tolerant and accepting. In recent years, this has changed. Since millennials and Generation Z have come to age, the left has grown decidedly intolerant. Despite the overwhelming body of evidence to support this claim, many on the left refuse to take it seriously. Many even dismiss it as a conspiracy theory. To them, censoring their adversaries or burning entire cities is not intolerant. I like to refer to this faction of the left as the woke millennials. And when you look at those who are among the woke millennials, you see a bunch of folks who were raised to believe that racism is everywhere, that calling people out is a good thing, and that they are special just for existing. Conversely, no one taught the woke millennials not to be like the very bigots they claim to be fighting against. That being the case, they tend to go through life with the false notion that they are freedom fighters deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize, all while being completely ignorant of the fact that they are textbook examples of intolerant. These days, the meaning of the word tolerance seems to have branched out into two different classifications. There's the Oxford definition of the word that has been in use since the 19th century, and then there's the woke millennial rendition, which is ironically the exact opposite of the traditional Oxford meaning. The Oxford meaning of tolerance is the ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular the existence of opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with. The millennial woke rendition is to accept everyone except those who are bad people. And bad people consist of, but are not limited to, Republicans, centrists, libertarians, those who are against illegal immigration, those who forgot to talk about oppressed groups in their YouTube videos, and many, 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 many more. In other words, the woke millennials believe that tolerance should be afforded to those who they deem worthy of it, and not afforded to those who they deem unworthy, all based on arbitrary standards that they made up. Under these new standards, the following classes of people have been deemed worthy of tolerance: illegal immigrants, gays, transgenders, people of color, and Muslims, as long as all these people are liberal. And they have to be the right kind of liberal, too. The instant any of these people put on a red hat that says, "Make America Great Again," this tolerance quickly turns into hostility. And we've seen that displayed. There's a YouTube video of a transgender woman wearing a MAGA hat in Los Angeles. What do you think happened to her? Well, she was assaulted by a so-called male feminist. Another passerby splashed an alcoholic beverage all over her face as they ran away. Now, if she had not been wearing this particular red hat with those particular 4 words on it, she would have been worshipped by the very people who physically harmed her. That is not tolerance. And let's remember, we have an entire group of people who see no problem with this. You know what that tells me? That tells me something is really wrong right here. Given the apparent hot and cold nature of the left, I can imagine the following scenario transpiring.
This is Right Wing Savages News, and we have a breaking news alert for you. Liberal feels compassion for trans woman, and then enraged upon seeing her wearing a MAGA hat. And then compassion again upon seeing that she wasn't actually wearing a MAGA hat, but a red hat that says, "Made you look." And then enraged again upon hearing that she doesn't believe that masks are effective in preventing the transmission of coronavirus. And then compassion again upon hearing that this trans woman is also an illegal immigrant. And you know what? I have a surprise for you guys. I have this very compassionate liberal right here, and he agreed to do an interview. How you feeling, sir? It sounds like you have been through a lot today.
Well, yes, I had been through a lot. I wasn't sure whether or not to feel compassion for the trans woman, legal immigrant, or to smash her in the face. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think I feel like I made the right decision, you know. The fact that she's trans and an illegal immigrant, you know, that kind of outweighs the bad. But, you know, if she was actually wearing a MAGA hat, you know, I would have smashed her in the face with a bottle of my own piss.
You don't think it's a little hypocritical that you call yourself compassionate and tolerant, yet the second somebody wears a hat you don't like, you resort to very violent and regressive tactics?
Well, you know what? I'm not even going to glorify you with a response because I don't want to give you a platform because you're racist.
But you've agreed to an interview this far.
Yeah, well, that was before I knew you were racist.
Uh-huh. And me challenging your worldview makes me racist.
Exactly.
Okay, well, there you have it. That was Right Wing Savages News, and we'll be back later for more breaking news alerts.
It's clear that the modern left has mistaken selective tolerance for tolerance. The only thing is, selective tolerance is not a thing. It is just intolerance. This new version of tolerance is the textbook example of intolerance. It's only a matter of time before dictionary editors are pressured by the woke mob into modifying the centuries-old definition to fit the Marxist narrative of what they want it to mean. Liberals often use the paradox of tolerance argument when faced with the accusation of the left being intolerant. The paradox of tolerance argument says that if a society is tolerant without limit, its ability to be tolerant is eventually seized or destroyed by the intolerant. For instance, if a society was tolerant of the ethnic cleansing characteristic of the Holocaust, that society would no longer be tolerant. Therefore, a society has to be intolerant of such practices in order to remain tolerant. The paradox of tolerance argument makes sense, and I agree with it. However, this argument falls apart when it's applied to modern-day leftism, and here's why. The modern left standard for what is intolerant is wide-ranging and arbitrarily applied. It's clear that the left labels others intolerant solely for political purposes. For example, many big tech social media platforms are labeling humorous posts made by conservative users as intolerant. Additionally, the left routinely applies false equivalency arguments in order to establish moral high ground over their adversaries. Unfortunately, despite this tactic being intellectually flawed, many fall for it. For instance, the left loves to compare someone who doesn't approve of homosexuality to the Holocaust. These two could not be further from each other. One was a mass genocide, the other is someone's personal opinion. There's no comparison there. Yet the left compares the two all the time to the point where it's become accepted as fact. Vladimir Lenin once said, "A lie told often enough becomes the truth." When these false equivalencies are advanced over and over and over again, people start believing them to be truthful equivalencies. And the left has transformed many false equivalencies into truthful equivalencies, just by relentlessly advancing them. And that's where the paradox of tolerance falls apart. The left's idea of what is intolerant is a far cry from what is actually intolerant. If one tries to explain to a lefty that they are practicing the very bigotry they claim to be fighting against, it's like talking to a wall. And when their views are challenged, they typically don't know how to respond, so here's what they do. They try to shift that blame away from themselves, and they'll say something to the effect of,
"Well, I'm not going to glorify you with a response because I'm not going to give you a platform because you're not worth my time."
Leftists tend to be very intimidated when their views are challenged by knowledgeable parties. The whole "you're not worth my time" argument has become the universal defense mechanism for the woke millennial who feel personally violated when their views are being challenged. Unsurprisingly, the woke millennials also carry a major presence online. I have personally dubbed Reddit the official social media platform of the regressive left. If you are a Reddit user and you're not a leftist who has the same generic opinions as everyone else, you will likely be met with irrationally hostile responses for seemingly no reason. These woke trolls, as I like to call them, will personally attack people for being a bad person. This is their keyword. They love to use that word, bad person. It's their license to insult people, because apparently, according to them, it's not socially acceptable to personally attack someone for no reason, but it is socially acceptable to attack someone if they are a bad person. So as a result, they just call anyone they want to attack a bad person. And I see that a lot on Reddit. And it's very bizarre because I'll see a lot of these woke trolls attacking someone and using very regressive cyberbullying tactics, but doing so under the guise of being a defender of morality and social justice. So it's very bizarre. A similar brand of unhinged lefties hate Donald Trump to the point where it's a preoccupying resentment. They frequently share altered images of Trump on social media. Recurring themes in these images are edited pictures of a bald Donald Trump, or a picture of Donald Trump with a big Kim Kardashian ass, or his face superimposed onto a diapered infant. I see a lot of this preoccupying hatred from deranged lefties. It's come to the point where I believe that 40% of Trump deranged people would do sexual things with him if given the chance. In fact, if we were somehow able to use top-notch VR technology to test my theory, I bet the findings would match my prediction. Say we find a bunch of Trump-obsessed individuals, put them under anesthesia, and they wake up wearing a VR headset, and they genuinely feel as though they are in a room with President Trump. I'm confident that many of them would find that their hate for the president was manifested in their deeply repressed sexual desire for him. I'm not saying they would immediately get on their knees for Trump. I think it would take some convincing, but still, within 12 hours, I'm pretty sure they'd be doing sexual things with Trump, because that's how obsessed they are with him. I would go so far as to say that Trump deranged lefties are more obsessed than actual MAGA people. It's Trump derangement that is keeping him in the mainstream. In fact, I think it's going to be the deranged people who get Trump elected again in 2024. 7 months after he left office, those who hate Trump with a passion so much that they will get his name tattooed on their body cannot shut up about him. President Trump remains a primary topic of discussion among left-wing social media circles. Meanwhile, when asking these individuals why they hate Donald Trump, they will spew every false talking point that has been propagated by the mainstream media to convince the public that Trump is a Klansman. Kids in cages, find people on both sides, called the Mexicans rapists, the Islamic ban, stand back and stand by, Trump is literally Hitler. And when you prove to them one by one that these narratives are false, they have a tantrum every single time. And that's why getting a liberal to show up to an actual debate is as difficult as getting Queen Elizabeth II to show up to my house for dinner tonight. It's because they know deep down that their positions cannot stand up to the scrutiny of fact. Furthermore, liberals are not well researched. They tend to get their information from a single or a very few amount of sources, which usually means they're likely getting misleading or incomplete information. Meanwhile, right-wingers and independents are more likely to take the time to research subjects and dig for the truth. Being regularly misinformed, they tend to lose debates, and because they're sore losers, it's hard to get them to show up. Those who dedicate their existence to the hating of President Trump are very pathetic. By way of their own self-destructive behavior, they are single-handedly helping Trump with his re-election efforts. So to the Trump deranged, woke millennials out there, the MAGA people, thank you for your work in helping to advance the cause. We will have to remember to send you guys a thank you card, or maybe a coupon for a free therapy session, because you guys definitely need it.